Meet the sheriffs.
Let's go and introduce ourselves.
My High Court Enforcement Officer.
We're here today to execute a High Court writ.
They're the men whose job it is to get you your money back.
It's an arrestable offence to stop me in doing my job.
If you've been ripped off and don't know where to turn...
I'm not waiting anymore. I'm ordered to seize goods to clear this debt, which would mean clearing this place out.
If you've been to court but still not been paid what you're owed...
Why don't you just tell me who you are? This is an absolute crock. You need to pay this.
The High Court enforcement officers are charged by law to recover what a court says is rightfully yours.
I've seized your car, sir.
You can either let us through the door or we'll go through the window.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
It's time to call the sheriffs.
Collected 42 grand.
Coming up, Gary and Janice Lomas paid £3,600 for their dream kitchen, but got anything but.
We knew then it was a fight between us and him.
The sheriffs go in search of their money. Mike Campbell paid £9,000 for a car, but ended up taking the garage he bought it from to court.
I said, that's not on, I want my money back. He said, well, that's not going to happen.
Can the sheriffs get him what he's owed?
The total due today is £11,757.96. How would you like to pay?
And is it lift-off for the sheriff's seizure of their biggest ever asset?
I'm at your hangar at the moment. I have actually seized one of your aircraft.
Blackpool, the ultimate British seaside resort. It's famous for its tower, rides and miles of sandy beach. It's also home to Gary Smith and Janice Lomas. When they decided to upgrade their kitchen, they thought it would be a simple enough matter. Instead, it's left them at their wits' end, shortchanged and battling in the courts.
Well, we saved up for a long time to have a new kitchen. You think if they've had the money and you've agreed a job and you've got plans and that's what it's going to look like when it's finished, that's what you expect to see.
Janice has multiple sclerosis, while Gary, a stonemason by trade, suffered a serious accident on the job, meaning both are now unable to work and money is always tight. So paying for a new kitchen was a major investment for them, one which they entrusted to Chris Smith's Kitchen Supermarket.
We just thought with it being a small family business, it would be a pretty safe bet. The impressions we got in the beginning were good.
They're helpful, friendly.
Helpful, honest, friendly. Yeah, we thought everything was hunky-dory.
Gary and Janice agreed to pay Chris Smith a total of £3,600 to be paid in instalments, with the final £1,600 due when the kitchen was completed. But Gary and Janice soon realised they weren't getting the kitchen they dreamt of.
The crux of the problem was the measuring up. That's the only way I can see that the problem started. And Mr. Smith worked to his measurements, which is obviously what he took, but were not right.
Gary and Janice had wanted a high-quality finished kitchen with all the appliances covered.
We've got the tumble dryer and the washing machine exposed. You can see the screw holes on each side.
But the washing machine and dryer weren't covered with cupboards as agreed. One of the cupboards in the plans wouldn't fit and had to be replaced with a wine rack. There are also gaps between units, missing splashboards and poor finishing. But that didn't stop Mr. Smith demanding payment of the full price before the job was even finished.
He was constantly pestering Janice and she handed over the cheque. From that point on, he told us that he couldn't put the units doors on the code to cover the washing machine and the dryer and the plinth.
Mr. Smith banks the full £3,600 without addressing their concerns. At this point, he became extremely difficult to pin down.
We were constantly on the phone, phoning him up, asking was somebody coming today, was they not? Yes, they were told, yes they were, but no one arrived.
Gary and Janice's dream kitchen was turning into anything but. They wrote to Mr. Smith demanding he finish the job to a proper standard, but he told them there was nothing wrong with his work.
If you make a mistake and you're in business, there's only you can put that right, and it should become your responsibility, not the client's responsibility.
But despite 3 independent surveys confirming the work was substandard, and the intervention of trading standards to make him agree to the necessary repairs, Mr. Smith failed to ever finish the job as he'd promised. Finally, the couple decided that legal action was their only option.
We took it to court. We knew then it was a fight between us and him, and that was it.
When the case was contested, a judge ruled in Gary and Janice's favour, awarding them £750 for Kitchen Supermarket's failure to complete the job as agreed. Mr. Smith then claimed he could only afford to pay this debt in instalments of £5 a week.
I was very, very insulted. I didn't pay him £5 a week for my kitchen.
Gary and Janice rejected his offer and went back to court demanding payment in full. The judge agreed and ordered the debt be settled within a week. However, Mr. Smith still refused to pay up. So today, Sheriffs Pete Spencer and Dave Crabtree are in Blackpool to make sure he pays up what he owes.
We'd asked to attend the address where the showroom is, I believe, in between 9 o'clock and 5 Monday to Friday, so we're bang in the middle of the day now, so we'll pull up and hopefully the shop will be open. Kitchen's made for you, that's going to be Highfield Kitchens.
The name on the showroom sign may be different, but the Sheriff's writ explains this is simply the trading name of Kitchen Supermarket UK Limited. Pete and Dave waste little time announcing their arrival.
Good afternoon. Mr. Smith about. I'm an enforcement officer. We've got an high court writ to attend here today.
Boss Mr. Smith isn't around, so Pete asks the receptionist to get him on the phone.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm an enforcement officer. We've got an high court writ to attend here today. Can you attend the property? OK, cheers, thank you. On his way down.
At this point, our cameraman is asked to leave. A few minutes later, Chris Smith arrives for a showroom showdown with Pete.
Regarding a Gary Smith and a Miss Janice Lomas. We're here to collect £1,637.40 or seize goods.
Mr. Smith produces a copy of the county court paperwork and tells Pete, as there's a spelling mistake with his company name, he doesn't have to pay. Pete's not having any of it.
I'm not from the county court, so that's irrelevant. I'm from the High Court. OK, I've got the High Court written the correct name. The address or the person is fine. We'll be seizing goods with view to removing. There's interest per day going on because it's High Court and we're up to £1637.40. How would you like to pay?
Having failed to get off on a technicality, Mr. Smith concedes defeat and agrees to pay up. 3 years after leaving Gary and Janice's kitchen in a mess, it's taken Pete a little over 3 minutes to get them the money they're owed.
Those are the bank details there, so the name of the account is that, account number and sort code. You must reference it with that number there.
With payment complete, Chris Smith decides he wants to give his side of the story. He says the judge only upheld the part of Gary and Janice's claim relating to their washing machine.
This was his existing washing machine, but we couldn't put a door on because of the shape of the washing machine. So the judge awarded it £750 to Mr. Smith for one washing machine. So that's why we're here today. So obviously I won't pay Mr. Smith on principle. I was going to say these are a typical example of our customers whose jobs we've done and photographs of jobs what we've actually done. 100% satisfied, and that's what we work on.
But Gary and Janice were left far from satisfied. At least for them, their long battle has now finally come to an end.
When I got the news they'd recovered the money, I was quite gobsmacked, actually, because I certainly didn't expect him to recover it so quickly. I thought he'd have played the game a lot longer, but he obviously didn't. And that was the end of that. I was quite pleased for him, and thanks very much.
Although sheriffs can go anywhere in the country, and frequently do, the bulk of their enforcements take them to either offices or houses. This morning, however, Sheriffs Mark Newton and Tony Smith are off to a different type of commercial premises. They're off to an airport, and they're eyeing up the biggest asset they've ever seized.
Yeah, we're off to a place by Southend Airport. We've had a report that basically this company has got a plane that they own, so hopefully that'll be there, and hopefully the company's still trading, and if we don't get any joy of that, we'll be seizing an aeroplane this afternoon.
Mark and Tony are after £3,858 from a company, 24/7 Jet, that hires out private planes. They owe money to people who carried out services for the company, but whose fees weren't paid. They don't wish to be identified. If 24/7 Jet won't pay up, the sheriffs can legally seize any assets they can prove belong to the company, with a view to selling them at auction to pay off the debt. They're hoping not to have to take a plane. But if needs be, they will.
I believe with a plane there's like a logbook that has to be on it to fly. So we'll try and make sure the plane can't go anywhere if it is there. And hopefully, with a plane sitting on the ground that they can't use, we'll entice them into paying us.
But first of all, the sheriffs have to establish whether the plane is there at all.
It could be anywhere. It could be in the sky, at Biggin Hill, Farnborough. It could be here.
Got to chase a plane around the country now, trying to find it. There it goes, down the runway. Follow that plane, quick.
And airports aren't the easiest places to get access to, even for sheriffs who've come bearing High Court writs. First up, Mark has to negotiate the airport's own security.
Yeah, this must be the gate, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if I'm at the right place, because I'm after 247 Jet Limited.
They wait while the security moves a plane, and then, as officers of the High Court on the trail of a debt, they have the all clear to head in.
Am I going to fit under that wing? Take the wing out.
While the sheriffs are allowed in, we're asked to wait outside. Mark heads to 24/7 Jet's offices, but he's soon back. The company's offices are shut, but he's managed to contact the boss, who's on his way.
The guy said he's about 45 minutes to an hour away. So I've told him I'll hang on for him. I told him what it's about, and he seems to think that he's paid it, but I don't think he had. He wasn't like 100% sure that he'd paid it. He said, "Oh, I thought I'd paid that," so we're just going to hang on till he gets here.
3/4 of an hour later, the boss Julie arrives. Mark explains what he's doing there.
I took you to court 5th of April, to the county court, and we need to collect the payment.
The man says he can't pay as his accounts office is closed. He's also unhappy that the amount owed has gone from just over £2,000 to almost £4,000 due to legal fees, sheriff costs, interest and VAT. He says he will not pay the sheriff's fees. Mark reminds him that if he doesn't pay, his plane is in jeopardy.
You're going to need to do something today. We're going to have to seize goods then. Unfortunately, you don't get a choice. We need to get some money. We do 1,000 today.
The man heads to his office, but isn't keen on the sheriff's following. But that isn't going to stop Mark.
Telling me where we're going and where we ain't going.
Mark and Tony follow the man to his office. Soon after, they return.
Basically, what's happened is he's paid us £750 today, and he's going to pay the balance in 2 days' time. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll give him the 48 hours, and hopefully he'll pay up. Otherwise, I told him we'll be coming back, and it's going to be costing him a lot more money.
With £750 in the bank for the people owed money and the rest due to follow, it's at least lift-off for the sheriffs. But there's still several £1,000s of the debt outstanding. And if it's not paid up in the next few days, the sheriffs will have to come back.
It doesn't matter where it is. Unfortunately, for the people who owe the money, we can pursue them wherever. So, like say, if we need to get into an airport, we'll get into an airport. And if we need to get into his office or into his hangar to seize his plane, we will do so. But at this stage, you know, hopefully he'll just pay it and he'll realise that it's got to be paid, and he'll deal with it from there.
Unfortunately, despite 24/7 Jet's promises, they didn't pay up the rest of the money they owed. Later, we'll see how Lawrence gets on when he returns to get the money owed, or take the plane. Back on the road and on the trail of rather smaller vehicles than aircraft are Sheriffs Pete and Dave. They're in Preston, on their way to a second-hand car garage. The man they're on their way to help is Mike Campbell. He's a project manager for a major national construction company. He's living in Manchester, but currently working in Glasgow. It's no surprise, therefore, that his car is a massive part of his working life.
I spend a lot of time behind the wheel. At the end of the day, this is a tool. It's a tool of the trade. It's sort of my living office.
But Mike's decision to treat himself to a new car to ease his commute turned out to be one that he's come to regret, landing him in court and bringing him to the doors of the sheriffs for help. Mike's problems began when he decided he was due a motoring upgrade. He went looking for a new car, and searching online, he thought he'd found the perfect model, a BMW X5, being sold by Arena Cars of Preston. Mike went to inspect the car in person.
Looked at the car, and it looked superb in the photos, and it didn't do it justice because the car was superb. There wasn't a scratch on the bodywork. The inside was immaculate. Like that one. That's the same car. It looks good, and it feels good to drive.
Besotted with the BMW, the same model as in these photos, Mike paid £8,995 for it. A few days later, it was delivered to him. The car ran on liquid petroleum gas, but almost immediately after filling it up, things started to go wrong.
Filled the car up, got the car back, jumped out of the car, went to lock it. Locking didn't work. If I can't lock it, the deadlock doesn't work, the lock doesn't work, the alarm system doesn't work, so therefore it's not insured.
Mike returned the car to Arena, who told him they'd fix it. But after waiting 2 weeks, the locking problem still hadn't been solved. By now, Mike had serious concerns about what he'd bought.
Said to him on the phone a couple of days before, I'm coming down, you keep your car, I just want the money back. You've had it longer than I've had it now, so far. I've only owned the car 2 weeks, and you've had it a week and a half. I said, that's not on, I want my money back. He said, well, that's not going to happen.
Instead, Arena agreed to pay for another garage to fix the locking issue, which they did, for £438. Mike paid up front, and Arena promised to send him a cheque, which he's never received. But before he could get too upset about that, worse was to happen.
I was driving to a place just outside Glasgow, got on the M74, was only 2 junctions down. I was only doing 60 mile an hour. All of a sudden there was a knocking and a bang, and that was it, the engine just cut out. I came off the motorway, managed to park up near the National Park. The car wouldn't start at all. There was no smell, no oil dripping or anything like that. So I phoned the RAC, get them to come out and have a look.
The RAC told Mike that his engine had failed. For the car to work again, he'd need it stripped down and rebuilt from scratch. Once again, Arena told him to bring the car in for them to fix. Mike paid another £460 to get the car towed from Glasgow to Arena in Preston, leaving him without a vehicle for work.
He's now got my car. I've got no other vehicle. I pay cash for the car. I don't have a luxury of 3 or 4 cars. That's it. I had to borrow a van. So I was gutted. Another week went by, or a week and a half went by. I said, where's my car? He said, all you need to know is that we're repairing it. I said, no, you've got my car. I want to know where my vehicle is. You don't need to know that. All you need to know is that we're going to repair it. I said, but you've had it now for, is it nearly 3.5 weeks now? Have you not done anything? I said, so what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? He said, well, that's all you need to know. And I said, oh, this is professional courtesy, is it? This is how you treat your customers, is it? Frustration, anger, just very, very, very frustrated. Wanted to go down there and see him face to face.
Arena said they would try and fix the car, but by now, Mike just wanted his money back. Arena refused to pay up, and so Mike thought he had no option but to take Arena to court.
Didn't know where else to turn. I just completely ran out of ideas. Without physically going down there and grabbing the money off the desk, I just didn't know what else to do. I was totally frustrated, totally frustrated.
After starting court proceedings, Arena eventually accepted liability in writing. But despite this, Mike still hasn't received any money. To get what he's owed, he's had to hire the sheriffs. Which is why Sheriffs Pete and Dave are in Preston in Lancashire, on their way to Arena Car Centre.
This first one we're going to is a car garage, Broughton Motors, trading as Arena Car Centre.
Car dealerships are a common visit for the sheriffs. The high-value assets on their forecourts represent both an opportunity and a challenge.
In theory, we will be seizing vehicles on arrival this morning. Owner's name. The only worst-case scenario could be if they're selling vehicles on behalf of customers. But we'll still seize the vehicles, and it's up to them to prove that they don't own the vehicles and customers own those vehicles.
Pete and Dave arrive and pull up. Only problem is, they're a bit too early.
It opens at 9:30. I'll give them a call. We'll seize the vehicles and list the vehicles while we're here, and see if we can get in touch with him a little bit earlier than when he's going to arrive.
Dave's given the task of listing the cars on the forecourt for a possible walking possession order. If Arena won't pay up, the sheriffs can execute the order to seize the vehicles. The threat of having the cars towed away and sold is usually enough to get the payment. Pete, meanwhile, is having trouble raising the management.
Bye-bye. The mobile number's switched off that I've just tried calling. That's up on the display there. By the time we've levied and filled the inventory sheet out for the vehicles, which is what Dave's doing at the moment, somebody should be on site. We'll just have to sit tight and wait until somebody arrives, I think.
Dave gets on with listing more cars to cover the debt. Pete, meanwhile, lays the groundwork in case he needs to tow them.
Can we have an indemnity to remove £12,000 of this debt? So potentially there'll be vehicles to remove. There's going to be more than that. It's probably about 4 or 5 cars. Right, I'll come back to you just in case it comes to that, that's all.
A member of staff arrives on site, but it's not owner Stephen Thomas. But the garage assistant does tell Pete what he feared most about the ownership of the cars on display. That they're owned not by the garage, but by a third-party funder.
I will let you know that we don't own anything on the forecourt.
Right.
So all these here aren't owned by us.
What you need to be doing is getting that funder down here then, because at the moment we've seized every vehicle on here. So he needs to get proof down here that he owns them and you don't.
It's all in there.
Is it all inside?
Pete asks if he can produce some evidence to back up what he's saying, while they wait for the boss to arrive.
I can't gonna wait for them to get here.
Right, OK. What we've seized is property of the court, so they'll have to prove that they don't own them now.
Pete's worried, because if Arena can prove the cars belong to a third party, he can't seize them, and there'll be no use for him to use as leverage to get payment. He's just musing on the issue when there's an arrival. It's owner Stephen Thomas, on site and ready to talk.
Enforcement officer.
Can Pete persuade him he needs to pay this debt?
Today. Mr Thomas, is it? Yeah. It's in connection with the Mike Campbell.
Right, yeah, the X5, yeah.
Yeah, he's just been explaining what car it is.
Yeah.
So the total due today is £11,757.96.
Right, okay.
That's the reason for our visit.
Right, okay.
To either collect that amount or remove goods to that value.
We did contact the court to say,
right.
Look, this is blah, blah,
County
blah.
court, yeah.
I don't know if it was the
yeah,
court.
It won't be us. It'll be
right,
county
it
court.
Yeah,
So
we did try to contact him, to try and sort it out which way we were going to pay it, you see.
Right, OK. How would you like to pay? We've got card machines, so we can do debit card, credit card, cash. Do a bank transfer, that's fine as well. Right. So we're looking for the full amount today.
Right, OK. I'm not trying to get out of not paying it, so, can we come back after? Or?
We can, just to make you aware, we've been on site for an hour now. We arrived at 8:30. Yeah, which I gather. So, after the first hour, we charge £181.50 plus VAT per hour. Now, because you only open at 9:30, I won't start charging you now. So you've got another hour from your arrival now before we start charging the waiting time. So from 10:30, we will be charging an hourly fee on top for wait.
To Pete's surprise, owner Stephen Thomas says he's willing to pay the debt in full, without Pete having to break sweat, let alone clamp any cars.
Tell me about it.
But it's not over until the money's in Pete's hands, or at least transferred into the sheriff's bank account, and the owner has got to find nearly £12,000 from somewhere. The owner tries to make a bank transfer, but there's a problem. He's chosen the wrong type of transfer, and it could take a day or two for the money to go through.
It's going to be through a full year this time. Just been on to Barclays now, and they have sent it, but seemingly what they've said is they've ticked the immediate payment box. It can take up to a day.
The sheriffs can't leave until payment is in their account. Not wanting Pete on site all day, the owner decides to change his method of payment.
He's just rung somebody up and they're going to just pay it by card, so he's going to get a card machine and take it down, and hopefully.
But no sooner is Dave off with the card machine than he's back, empty-handed.
Reverse on that. The guy hasn't got a card.
So with the original bank transfer halted and unable to find a card to pay off the debt, if he wants the sheriffs out of his hair, the garage boss has got to find an alternative. He gets back onto his bank to see if he can arrange an immediate transfer of funds.
Okay.
And moments later, it looks like it's third time lucky. After checking the transaction with the office, Pete's had good news.
The defendant's paid in full, £11,757.96. Payment in full, which is what we come for.
A paid in full of nearly £12,000 is a great start to the day for any sheriff. More importantly, it means Mike Campbell finally getting the money he's owed.
We're pleased to confirm, pending clearance, we have received monies payment in full in this matter. Unless advised otherwise, we shall remit the monies in the statutory 14-day period. So I've won. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Never thought I'd get it. Cheers, guys.
Hello there. I'm a High Court Enforcement Officer.
Anyone that manages to obtain a county court judgment of over £600 can upgrade it to the High Court and get a writ.
We are here today to collect £20,741 and a penny.
The sheriffs will demand payment or seize assets from anyone named on a writ, no matter how big or small the amount.
The bottom line is it needs paying.
Coming in anyway today, whether you let me in or not.
They've seized Formula One cars, trailers, aeroplanes, ships, sheep and bullion. The largest seizure they've ever made was for over £5 million.
There you go, I'll write you out a receipt.
These days, a High Court writ costs £60. If the sheriffs are successful, there's nothing more for the client to pay. If they're unsuccessful, the only cost is a £60 admin fee.
I think he thinks we're just going to leave. He's going to be in for a bit of a shock, because we don't.
Earlier, we saw Mark and Tony at Southend Airport, trying to get money back from 24/7 Jet for people who carried out services for the company, but whose fees weren't paid. Their standoff ended with the boss of 24/7 Jet paying £750 and agreeing to settle the rest of the debt in 5 days. But this payment never arrived. Now Lawrence and Kev have got up early to beat the morning traffic and are going back to the airport to settle the debt once and for all. And this time, they're under orders not to leave without either payment in full or a jet worth hundreds of thousands of pounds.
The guy's just playing hard to get, so we're playing even harder today. We've got a locksmith meeting us there, and I've brought with me all the appropriate paperwork and notices to stick on the aircraft so that we can seize it. We'll be removing any documents, stuff like insurance and service records and that, which makes the plane scrap value if you haven't got them. So basically, we're looking to potentially ground one aircraft today.
With dawn breaking, they arrive and park up. They're waiting for a locksmith because, if needs be, they're legally allowed to force entry onto the plane.
Security gate. Yeah, dive in here.
Stealth approach.
Yeah.
The wait also gives Lawrence the chance to study his battle plan.
Aviation Way, there's the security hut, and it's over there. And their door in is there, so I'm pretty sure it's that hangar over there.
There's Andy.
Soon after, their locksmith arrives and Lawrence and Kev are ready to go airside.
Oh, mate, looking for a 24/7 Jet or 247 Jet? We're enforcement officers here to execute a High Court writ.
Lawrence produces the High Court writ, and airport security waves them through.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks. I'm on the runway.
You're not on the runway, you're on the taxiway.
So we're going this way, left?
Yeah. I'm right here.
I'm on the runway.
Get up there. Runway. So this is it here, this hangar here. There might be somebody in there, the lights are on.
No one's answering the 24/7 jet door. But Lawrence has already located their prize asset and isn't in the mood for waiting. They head to the plane, locksmith in tow. But will they need him?
Oh, it's open.
That's a good locksmith. That's a good locksmith, that is.
Isn't it? God, it's a bit cramped in here.
God, they're not very big, are they?
It's tiny, isn't it?
But Lawrence isn't on board just to check out the executive facilities. He's looking to take possession of the plane's logbook. Without it, it's illegal for this jet to leave the ground. And there it is. Lawrence has found exactly what he was looking for.
All the documentation in it, that's a certificate of registration, which we have to leave in here. But the airworthiness review certificate, the nose certificate, air operation certificate, it's worthless, it's scrap value without these.
With these in the sheriff's hands, this plane just had its wings clipped.
Right, just need some tape.
Without further ado, this plane is seized. It's now the property of the court on paper and can't be moved, let alone flown by its owner.
Kev, do you want to have a drive over to security and just see if you can get the guy on the phone?
Yeah.
Encourage him to come down here.
Kev sets off to get the man's number from security. It's time to let him know. Unless he pays the £3,200 debt today, his several £100,000 plane could be leaving with the sheriffs. When Kev returns with his number, Lawrence wastes no time in getting him on the phone to let him know what's what.
Morning, sir. My name's Mr. Grix. I'm an enforcement officer. I'm at your hangar at the moment at Southend Airport. I have actually seized one of your aircraft. I've removed the appropriate documentation from the cockpit and placed the appropriate notices within the cabin. I need somebody to come down and sort this out. So if you can come down, sir, before we end up removing the plane. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The boss of 24/7 Jet calls Lawrence back. Unsurprisingly, he's got a few questions of his own.
Who let us on the airport? We drove through security, sir. Nobody can stop us entering the airport. We're executing a High Court writ. We have the power to force entry onto commercial premises if necessary. But we didn't need to force entry. I just showed my identification to the security guards and he let us in. We've got a locksmith with us to effect entry into the hangar if need be. But for the moment, we've actually seized one of your planes outside. We've removed the documentation from it. So I need somebody to come down here and pay it in full, sir, and we can then release our seizure. But it will be going up by £225 plus VAT per hour that we're here because we've got the locksmith here as well. And bearing in mind, you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of planes here. To say you can't get £3,000 together when you've had months and months of notice is just not acceptable.
Lawrence's tough stance seems to have had an effect. The man agrees to pay by bank transfer. But given his track record, this still isn't good enough for Lawrence.
Because I'm not going to be able to check the bank account at this time in the morning because there's nobody in the office to check it for me. Are you very far away, sir? If you were here, we've got a debit card machine and you could pay by debit card with chip and pin. OK then, sir. I believe he's now going to come down with a debit card.
Where did he say he was?
I asked him if he was very far away and he said yes, but then...
He's changed his mind now.
Yeah.
Soon after, the boss arrives. He's not happy about his plane, and even less pleased about our camera.
Hi there.
Not wanting to get in the way of the sheriff's work, we withdraw, as the man speaks to them. He offers to make a down payment, but it's only half the amount Lawrence is looking for, and he won't give the plane back unless he gets all the money the ex-customer is owed. In the face of Lawrence's pressure, 24/7 Jet's boss realises the hopelessness of the situation. Faced with losing a jet worth hundreds of thousands of pounds for a £3,000 debt, he relents and agrees to pay on a debit card, in full.
He did try and offer a part payment of £1,700, but Not when you've got £100,000 worth of planes seized. You know, he realised that, you know, the game was up, basically. And we were advised that it was due to fly to Marrakesh tomorrow. So he'd have had some disappointed customers if they weren't able to take off. So, yeah, good start to the day.
Being a High Court sheriff is far from a 9-to-5 job. This morning, Lawrence and Kev have already been up 3 hours and have driven 130 miles through the dark.
It's 6:30 and we're just coming up towards Loughborough. We're actually going to a residential address. We've also got a business address, but given the time of day, we're going to the residential address.
The sheriffs are trying to help an 86-year-old lady who wishes to remain anonymous. She loaned some of her savings to her dentist, John Hammond, to invest in a business. Despite repeated requests, this money was never returned, and she was forced to take him to court. When Mr. Hammond failed to contest the case, a judge ordered him to pay her £8,695.05. But the dentist has still failed to pay. It's now down to Lawrence and Kev to remind him in person.
I would imagine being a dentist still had money.
Yeah.
He's in a named house, not a numbered house, so I would imagine he's got quite a nice house, potentially quite a nice car. And we'll be catching him before he goes to work.
The sheriffs are going to the dentist's village home first, as their High Court writ is against him personally, not his business. But finding it could prove tricky.
Find the named house first.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
First thing in the morning. I've got batteries in my top.
Yeah, Country Lane named house. Brilliant.
Oh, it has got a number on it. Why do I think it didn't have a number on it?
Got it.
Mr. Hammond's house proves pleasingly straightforward to spot. And with vehicles on the drive, this is looking promising.
You good there?
That's them blocked and it's not blocked the neighbours, yeah.
Oh, okay.
With the cars secured, it's time for a wake-up call. Can they get the elderly lady who lost her savings what she's owed?
Morning. Hello there, sir. Looking for a John Edward Hammond. Would that be yourself? Yeah. I'll show you some ID, sir. My name's Mr. Griggs. I'm an enforcement officer. We're ordered here by the court today to seize goods to the value of £10,706.66.
It's the man they've come to see, John Hammond. Straight away, he admits he's aware of the debt, and with interest, VAT and fees, the bill has gone up. Lawrence wastes no time outlining the payment methods he'll accept.
We don't take checks, sir. We've got a chip and pin machine if you can do a card payment.
So if you've got a check, you can do a card, can't you?
The dentist still seems to be half asleep. He wants to know why the sheriffs have come so early.
I mean, obviously, we've come at this time of day to catch you in before you go to work, which is, you know, that's the purpose. We don't come at 7 to inconvenience you, we come at 7 to catch you in before you go out. I mean, you can do a transfer. If you've got internet banking, you can do a transfer straight into our bank account. You know, we can't leave here until it's sorted out.
At this point, our cameraman is asked to leave the property. But we continue filming from the pavement, as Lawrence gets on with seizing the cars on Mr. Hammond's driveway. If necessary, these can now be towed away and sold to help pay his debt to the elderly patient he borrowed money from. Lawrence makes sure he understands the situation.
The problem is we're not ordered out to collect money. It's deemed that you haven't got the money, so we're ordered out to seize goods to clear the debt instead.
Lawrence's tough stance has an immediate effect. John Hammond says his son can pay the debt by bank transfer.
If you can just do us a screen grab, like a print off of the screen.
But there's a snag. His son lives in Switzerland.
From abroad, I don't think there's any way we can verify it.
Mr. Hammond then says his son can pay with his Swiss credit card instead.
We don't take credit cards over the phone. It's got to be chip and pin, it's got to go into a machine.
Mr. Hammond needs to come up with another way of paying the woman's money, or Lawrence may have no choice but to call the tow trucks. Then, with dawn breaking, another of the dentist's sons arrives at the house. He's got a more straightforward solution for how to get rid of Lawrence and Kev. He offers to pay £6,000 on a credit card there and then, with his brother in Switzerland paying the rest by bank transfer, to settle the elderly lady's debt. This sounds like a good deal for Lawrence, who wastes no time putting this transaction through. But there's now a new problem.
So 6,000 on this one.
Finding signal, yeah. All right.
Still struggling. No, it's done it again.
Their trusty chip and pin machine isn't working.
Is there somewhere we can just drive to up the road where we're going to get the signal?
Needing a mobile phone signal for the card machine, they try a change of location. But that doesn't do the trick either. After an unsuccessful drive around the block, Lawrence realises the problem isn't the machine, but something else.
I don't think it's a phone problem, a SIM problem. It's got seems to have full signal, so it must be something to do with the card processing centre.
Lawrence and Kev have to admit that technology has let them down, and the son's credit card payment isn't going to work this morning. But with the dentist's vehicle seized, they're still in a strong position to get the elderly lady the money she's owed. Time to strike a deal.
Well, if your son does the 6,000, I've said basically because it's going to be an international transfer, we'll allow a week. OK. What I need you to do is sign and print on that for me. So, providing that money comes in, you won't ever see us. OK.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's a mixed outcome for Lawrence and Kev. They've seized goods on paper as leverage and secured a concrete promise to pay from the dentist. But no sheriff likes to leave without the money they came for.
That was a complete pain. Well, basically, they were willing to pay on that one. And really, we didn't have much choice. If you can't get a signal, if technology just isn't working, technology's a great thing, but when it mucks up,
It's a bit cream crackers.
you're probably worse off than you'd be if you didn't have it in the first place, because everybody's so geared up to it. I've no reason to believe that the money won't be transferred in as agreed.
And Lawrence's prediction was proved right. It seems their visit had the desired effect, as days later, Mr. Hammond finally paid back the full amount he owed the elderly patient. For the sheriffs, it's what they like best. Another payment in full. Mr. Hammond told us that the money was loaned to him as part of a business investment and that he had repaid, as agreed, interest on the loan as well as over £10,000 of the original capital. He says the delay in payment was caused by losing a major customer of the company and suddenly being asked for the full return of the loan, which was difficult to do at short notice. Mr. Hammond said he had not paid prior to the sheriff's visit because he was negotiating with the court to pay it off in instalments. He reiterated that the debt has now been paid in full.
It's high time Masood confessed all to Tam, but will he go through with it? EastEnders at 7:30. Then unique footage of the creatures in our hidden kingdom, including the journey of a rhinoceros beetle at 8. And later, a body is found and there's a suspect in the frame, but is it the right person? Silent Witness investigates at 9.